Summer is coming soon. It's time to get out and ride an e-bike, and today it is this little folding bike from Gotrax. More and more it seems like people are wanting e-bikes that have all the bells and whistles. You want front suspension, rear suspension, hydraulic brakes, not just one but two batteries. You want more gears, you want torque sensing. Well, throw all of that out of the window for the Gotrax because this is a very simple bike. No, there is no front suspension or rear suspension. There are no gears. There's just a single speed drivetrain, which makes this very simple. The brakes are mechanical. It's using a rear hub motor, which they say is 350 watts. Not 100% sure about that because it actually feels pretty peppy for 350 watts, to be honest. There's a cadence sensor right there. We'll talk about that cadence sensor in a little bit. But it does have the basics, like an integrated rear tail light, integrated front light, a display that shows you the things you really need. Your energy bar, how much battery you have, how fast you're going, what pedal assist level you're in from 0 to 5, and how far you've gone. And you can see I haven't ridden it very far at all. Only about 1 mile so far, but we are gonna add some miles to this thing right now and see how it handles. Throttle is done with a twist on the right-hand side, and that's about all there really is to it. Now this bike, of course, does fold up. You have a standard latch right in the middle, a latch up here on the handlebars, and you have this quick release up here, so you can move the handlebars up and down. Now the bike is fairly small overall, but honestly, even me at 5'10", I feel pretty comfortable with the bars even at their lowest position. So this thing would be really upright if you wanted it to sit that way. And you might be thinking that this is not very impressive. And to some degree, you would be right. It is lacking in some of the creature comforts you may be used to on other e-bikes. But if you just want something simple, reliable, and cheap, maybe this is perfect. Think about the positives. There's no derailleur hanger to bend. There's no derailleur to adjust or fiddle with. This drivetrain will probably go for thousands of miles. Maybe eventually you'll want to replace that rear single speed freewheel because those do eventually wear out, but it's going to be a really low maintenance bike if you just need something small and compact. Speaking of which, let's see how small this thing actually goes. Now, I've never folded this particular bike, but looks pretty self-explanatory if you've ever done any folding bike. Pedals fold in. The handlebars are going to fold in off to one side. Latch in the middle. All of these have safety features, so you can't accidentally do this. And there it is, small enough to throw in the trunk of your car without needing a bike rack. And that would be pretty easy to do because according to their website, this weighs 44 pounds, which I would believe. It feels pretty light compared to most of the electric bikes that I review. Oh, and of course we could put the saddle down to make it a little more compact. There you go. Now part of that small lightweight is thanks to the fairly small battery. It is only a 48 volt, 7.8 amp hour, which isn't very big, but I also think it's big enough for a small folding bike. This is kind of a last mile device, if you will. Let's say you want to get somewhere with your car, but there's no parking close by an event, and you want to be able to park 2, 3, 4, 5 miles away. You could do that with something like this, pop it out of the trunk, and get that last mile or two very easily. This is not something you realistically want to go ride 40 miles, even though they say it will. The interesting thing I do find about that battery choice, however, is the fact that it's 48 volts. Usually when you have a 350 watt motor like this, they're running on 36 volts. Pretty odd to see a 48 volt setup with only a 350 watt hub motor. And I think that's why the power feels so punchy, because I was surprised just on the first little test ride that I did how quickly it wants to take off. Now, I don't know if that power is not linear. In other words, that was pedal assist 1 but does that mean 5 is only a tiny bit more power, or does it really have a lot more to give? Let's unfold it, set it up, and find out. All the folding mechanisms work nice. So to me, it did feel a little jumpy on the power on pedal assist 1. Let me show you. So the pedaling isn't gonna look like much because it's a single speed. I really can't gear down to get going. But we start cranking and then off it goes. So that's pedal assist 1, and pedaling wise, it's fairly comfortable, a little slow on the cadence, but pedal assist 1 wants to bring me up to about 9.5 miles an hour, just under 10 miles an hour, which I think is a little fast for assist 1. I would have liked to have seen that more like 5 miles an hour. Let's see what pedal assist 2 does. Whoa, a little lurch between the steps. Now we are doing 11.5 miles an hour. Now there's 2 ways pedal assist systems can work when they're cadenced. They can either be based on a specific speed, or they can be set up to be a certain wattage. There is no wattage on this display, and this is flat ground, so I'm not 100% sure which one it is, but if we hit a little bit of a grade, we can find out. If our speed stays constant, then we know it's operating that way. If the speed slows down a little, then we know the assist levels are based on wattage. Let's bump it up into 3. Now we're doing 13.5, so we went from 9.5, 11.5, 13.5. It's basically 2 miles an hour increase every time so far. Here's 4. Well, that added a lot of power because we're doing like 16.5 miles an hour, and it takes exponentially more power to increase speed. It's kind of fun. It's a 20-inch wheels, low to the ground, feels maneuverable. When I do a tight turn now. Whoa! You could really lean this thing over. I hope that angle comes through on camera because that was kind of fun. I'm gonna do that one more time. Don't crash. All right, let's bump it up to assist 5, maximum power. And I'm still pedaling, this is not throttle. Pedal assist 5 brings us right up to 20 miles an hour. You do have to pedal fairly quick on the cadence to keep up with it. Or because this is a cadence sensor, you can just fake it and just pretend to pedal, and it does 20. And it seems to do 20 very easily, which makes me think this is really putting out more than 350 watts. This feels more like a 500 watt bike to me. It could be just the small wheels, the motor setup, it's got a lot of torque to it. But yeah, I wouldn't worry about the 350 watt rating. We are gonna hit some hills here in a minute, but it takes off quick. In fact, let's see how long it takes to get up to 20 miles an hour. I'm at a stop, and I'm just gonna give it full throttle in 3, 2, 1, go. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 19.8. All right, we're basically at top speed now. Not bad. The last like 1 mile an hour, it seems like it took a little more effort to get there. So definitely everything is geared for low end power. The rear brake could, it is a little jerky. So here's me going slow. I'm gonna try and do full throttle, you can see. Whoa. It kind of lurches a little bit. The power is not smooth. So some bikes have a soft start, so the power eases on nicely. Not this one. Be prepared that when you start pedaling or you hit that throttle, it is going to go. So if I was lighter, that would be almost scary. So pedal assist 5 up a slight grade. Here's the speed. My biggest concern about single speed bikes is always how well do they do up hills? And I'm not even pedaling. I don't think there's any way this is 350 watts, because I shouldn't be able to do 18, 19 miles an hour, even though that's not a very steep grade right there. That speed without pedaling, unless this thing is just really geared perfectly to where the top speed is just 20, and then there's no more torque left at that point, which is good. Just don't expect to get high speeds out of this. This is not gonna go 25 miles an hour or 28. It's gonna go 20, and that's it. All right, this is a steeper hill. Hello, dogs. I'm gonna do the same thing. No pedaling. 15. Now that battery being 7 amp hours, this is gonna zap the power down, or zap the range down for sure. But it did that pretty good. I'm gonna get both hands back up on the bars here because this hill on the other side is really steep. And these brakes are not broken in yet. Woo-hoo. 29. We're just coasting. That's just how steep that hill is. Bug. But despite the fact that this has little tiny wheels, it handled that 30 mile an hour downhill run without any problems. Felt stable. Sometimes little bikes feel kind of squirrely. And this has that to a certain degree, but it's not bad. All right, so I gotta talk about the brakes because the quality of the brakes does matter. These are mechanical, like I said. Let me just show you what happens when I squeeze the rear brake completely from 17 miles an hour. And I adjusted this already. Now, obviously, I would get better braking if I also used the front brake. But the brake calipers, the pads are not great. And in the past 2.5, 3 months, I have dropped about 30 pounds of weight. So a few months ago, if I rode this, that would have felt even worse. The folding mechanisms work good. They feel sturdy. I don't really have any concerns about those. As I said, it's a very simple bike. There's not a lot to break or wear out. Now, I also said this was cheap, inexpensive, use whatever word you want to use. When I first got the bike out of the box and set up, I was thinking, if it was $1,500, I would definitely pass. I was thinking, even if this is $999, I'm not too sure about it. Here's the really steep hill. Let's see if I can make it up this. This is gonna be a really good test because this hill is super steep. Oh man, I don't know if I'm gonna burn something up. It's still going. I bet if I think it's actually gonna make it. I'm just afraid I'm gonna break it because it's crawling 5 miles an hour. It's doing it though. I'll be honest, I was barely pedaling. If I was 140, 150 pounds, it'd probably go up that hill pretty decent. Performance-wise, that is actually surprising. Most of the single-speed bikes I've ridden up that hill really struggle to make it unless I stand up and really get on the pedals, and I didn't have to do that. But what I was saying about the price is that if this bike was even at $999, I might be a little like, I don't know if that's a good value compared to what else is out there. I don't really like e-bikes that start getting below $1,000 because components start getting really cheap. When I say components, I'm talking about brakes, motors, shifters, derailleurs. I mean, one way to get around that is just don't put a derailleur on it. Don't put shifters on it. Just eliminate some parts that maybe aren't what everybody actually wants. And this bike surprised me because they're normally $799, and I noticed right now they're on their website for $599. So 600 bucks, and that's a price I could live with. You're on your phone and you had a stop sign. I mean, they did stop, but then they decided to go when I was in the intersection. So at 600 bucks, I would say this is a pretty good value if you want, like I said, a last mile bike. Folding, compact, reasonably lightweight. You're not worried about getting you know, 30, 40 miles. It just wouldn't be very comfortable, I think, for that kind of distance. Although if you pedaled enough, it'd do it. But being a single speed, it's not really the most comfortable thing to pedal at all speeds. And the pedal assist is kind of jerky on and off. It's not very smooth. And then there's those brakes, which are just a little lackluster. They could improve when they break in, but I think they skimped a little bit price-wise on that. But power-wise, this thing has surprised me. It really accelerates quickly, and it has more torque than I thought it would, based on what I read on paper. I've ridden enough bikes to just kind of get a feel for things. Sometimes they're underpowered, sometimes they're overpowered. I wish the display showed the wattage, or I had a meter on hand I could check it, because I really think this thing's probably closer to 500 watts. I think they should double check it and change their website, or maybe say it's 350 watt nominal, 500 watt peak or something, because the motor definitely has 350 watt engraved on it. Now I got a bug in my eye. All that's left is to get one up my nose. Brake, brake, brake. I squeezed the rear brake as hard as I could, and I didn't make it before the line. Again, only using one-handed braking. Should be using both, then it would be just fine. Hey, look at that, an e-bike. So I think motor, better than advertised. I think the folding aspect of the bike works perfectly. No issues whatsoever there. Brakes could be a little better, to the point that if I was gonna buy one of these, I would just plan on changing those out. Maybe the calipers are okay. Definitely change the pads. The rotors are 160 millimeters, which should be sufficient, but you really got to squeeze those things to stop right now. So let's say you spend another 50 bucks or so to change the pads out, or even the calipers to another mechanical caliper that's just better quality. I think that's going to make this a better bike. From the factory, if I had a couple of feedback items for them, realistically it would only be to smooth out the programming on the pedal assist. There's nothing wrong with a cadence sensor. Cadence sensors have worked for many years on a lot of bikes. They're going to be around for a long time. A torque sensor is good, but some people don't even like them. Some people actually prefer the cadence sensor. They like to be able to ghost pedal, where you just pedal around pretending to pedal and the bike goes, and you can do that with this. It's got enough power, it cruises along without me actually putting any input in just fine. It just could be a smoother experience than what it is. And that's something I think they could do without even changing the price. Just a little bit of tweaking, programming, and they could improve that assist and still keep the price at the sale price of $599 or their retail $799, whichever it's gonna be. And they've already got the other good stuff that most bikes didn't even come with a few years ago. That is a functioning brake light. I've turned the headlight on, so now the tail light's on. It's still a brake light, it just gets a little bit brighter. There's the headlight. Doesn't look super bright, probably works just fine to be seen. You might want something brighter if you really want to see the road in front of you. They've got mounts built into the front of the frame for a front rack, and it's got mounts in the back for a rear rack as well. And it comes with a bell. What more could you want? So if all you need is a folding bike, it's simple, doesn't have a lot of things to wear out, and you got a budget of, I'm gonna say 650 bucks right now, because it's $599 for the bike, and I would recommend maybe improving the brakes a little bit. I think that's kind of a necessity. Then this is pretty decent. Once again, this is one of the many models from Gotrax. They have e-bikes and also some pretty cool off-road scooters. I don't know if you could see that in there, but this is the F1 model. It does say it on the sticker down there. And I will put a link in the description to where you can buy one. Check out that lean angle. Don't wipe out, don't wipe out.